ground. I give a what a hater do. If I do not try, then I will have failed, and I can't afford not to make a move. I was told I was not good enough. I was told I was not capable. I had to sit and just ask myself, what you gonna let this make you grow? Everything that I've been working for is right in front of me. I will not ever let go. Using negativity as energy for me as I travel alone on this road. They didn't see the vision, they didn't understand. I went the distance, no helping hand. Now my gift got me sitting on top, and I'm about to show up now thinking I hope you did.
Here we go, Las Vegas, at 12 noon Pacific time. It is Monday, March 27th, 2023, and this is Nighttime at Noon on Fox Sports Las Vegas. Hello again, everybody. Dan Duva, Gary Lawless here. Thanks for joining us, not only on Fox Sports Las Vegas, but all across the Vegas Golden Knights streams. Gary, how are you today?
I'm fantastic, Dan. Yesterday was a little... well, let's take the listener into a day in the life. The game ended. The game started late Edmonton time.
Yeah, 8 o'clock hockey night.
Yeah. And so by the time, what time did we take off? Around midnight Edmonton time?
Gosher's the guy who tracks all this.
Yeah, but so, anyways, we landed at around 2:30, 2:45. Well, when you're coming back from Canada, you got to go through customs. Yeah. So normally we fly into the private strip, and our cars were quite spoiled.
Yes.
The cars are there. We walk out to the cars, and you're home in 20 minutes. This time we had to clear customs.
Yeah, it takes like an hour.
Then get our bags. Then there's a van shuttle that takes us over to our parking lot. Then you get in the car and you drive home. So I don't know. I got to bed 3:45-ish. Gosher couldn't fall asleep. He told me.
Yeah, I can't fall asleep.
He didn't get to sleep till 4:30.
Yeah, that's about the same.
Yeah, but you guys don't have a daughter.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
I was up at 7:30.
Right, you got to.
And I had some fun. I wrote a column that we posted on Vegas Golden Knights social media streams and the website. So
just for the record, I woke up at 8 and looked at the clock and said, "I'm going back."
Yeah,
to sleep.
good for you. Yes.
So what was the column about?
The column is about how that flight home. There was a huge win in Edmonton.
Yeah.
It's the 7th win in a row on the road. It's the last game of a road trip. The team won it at Vancouver, won in Calgary, and then Edmonton is chasing the Golden Knights in the Pacific Division, and it's in their building. Connor McDavid had hit 60 the night before. They're feeling really good about themselves, and this is a chance to kick the Golden Knights, to kick the legs out from underneath the Golden Knights in the regular season standings. And Vegas, won the game and won in overtime, which, to me, the last time Vegas played in Edmonton and went to overtime, the Connor McDavid show came out, and it was, he scored a tremendous goal, and it was disappointing for the team. It was also an opportunity for the Golden Knights to show the Oilers. Like the last 2 times they played them, the first time, Vegas was going through a rough spot. The second time was right after Mark Stone had been, was injured, and we all found out that he was, going to have surgery again.
That was the first game that he missed. So
yeah.
The first meeting, Gary, was back on November 19th. That was the McDavid overtime goal in Edmonton. And then the second meeting, which was in Vegas, that was January 14th. Edmonton wins in regulation 4-3. That was the first game that Mark Stone did not play after he got taken out early in the previous game.
And the Golden Knights were not themselves that night. So this game in Edmonton to me was a chance to show the Oilers this is the team that has been the best team in the NHL since the All-Star break. If you see us in the playoffs, this is what you're going up against. It's a chance to show them that. And it was also Laurent Brossoit's first game since he had returned from a small injury. You got something to say?
Yeah, well, just to your point, to build on the Pacific playoff teams.
Yeah.
We mentioned this on the broadcast the other day, but I'll repeat it. So Pacific playoff teams, we're talking the Kings, the Oilers, the Kraken. Those are the 3 teams beside
and the
Vegas.
Knights, yeah.
Right, beside the Knights from the Pacific, currently in a playoff spot. Vegas, against those current Pacific playoff teams, they won the first 2 of them.
Yeah.
Against the Kings, Game 1. Against the Kraken in Game 3 back in October. So they win the first 2. Since then, they had gone 0-4-1 against those 3 teams. This was the first win against a Pacific playoff team for the Knights since the 3rd game of the season against the Kraken. especially significant because 5 of the final 10 games are against Pacific playoff teams. 2 against the Oilers. They won the first one. Another one coming up tomorrow. 1 against the Kings on April 6th, and then 2 against the Kraken to close out the regular season. So you have, if you add up all of that, that is a total of 7 games previously against Pacific playoff teams in the span of 72 games, and then 5 out of the final 10. So it's a big deal. And as you just outlined, Gary, getting a win against a team to show them what they might be up against, that the Knights are, in fact, the Pacific Division and Western Conference leaders.
It's also, there is great value right now in winning the Pacific and winning the Western Conference because the wild card 2 team potentially is going to be the one team that doesn't really belong with the rest of the rest of the group, and the teams 2 and 3 in the Pacific, the top 3 teams in the Pacific, Vegas, LA, and Edmonton. 2 of those teams are going to play each other in the first round.
Right now, it would be LA against Edmonton.
Yeah, that's going to be a war. That's going to go long, and it's going to take its toll. And listen, you got to beat everybody. And I don't believe in this, the Toronto Maple Leafs complaining that they have to play Tampa for the 800th time in a row in the first round and get knocked out. Too bad. You want to be the Stanley Cup champion, you got to knock the Tampa Bay Lightning off.
Yeah, the Blue Jackets did it a few years ago.
Exactly. So anyways, but listen, you do what you can to give yourself plausibly the easier route. And, listen, if Vegas plays Winnipeg in the first round and Connor Hellebuyck gets hot, there's not going to be anything easy about that. The Jets are struggling right now.
Yeah.
Anyways, we got on the plane, and even when we got on the bus, like, the broadcasters, we're not part of the team per se, but we're part of the organization, and we're around all the time, and we without knowing it, we feel a lot like the players situationally. And we got on the plane, it was just like a regular win. I got on the bus, and it was just like a regular win amongst the broadcasters. There was no, there was no popping corks or anything like that. And then we got on the bus.
I missed all the pop corking through the years.
Yes, then we got on the plane, same thing. The players, it was lots of guys tried to go to sleep. Lots of guys watched something on their iPad. And the card game that has been going since the season started continued. They were playing cards just like they always do. And it just struck me that this team now expects to win. Winning isn't a big surprise to them or a cause for – they don't get too high and they don't get too low. But they expect to win. Bruce Cassidy has instilled in them it's really interesting to go back over what Bruce has said at certain points in time in the season. And after the All-Star break, he simply said, it's winning time. Now is the time you have to win. You do good things earlier in the season to get yourself to this position. Now you have to take advantage of it. And boy, have they ever won.
They have
17-3-2
yes,
since the All-Star break. That's the best team in hockey.
And the Kings are second best, by the way.
Yes, yeah. Best record in hockey, best mark. The Boston Bruins will tell me that they are the best team in hockey, and I won't argue with them. They have earned that right to this point.
They've just set a franchise record for wins. They have long since clinched a playoff spot. Also since then, Hurricanes have clinched, Devils have clinched, and the Golden Knights and the Toronto Maple Leafs are on the precipice of clinching as well.
A little tidbit here. Bruce Cassidy he's addressing the media right now, and he has said that he doesn't expect Riley Smith or Logan Thompson to be available this week. He'll know more once they get back on the ice, that's kind of what he always.
Yeah. So I wanted to go to that next.
Yeah.
So
sorry, Dan.
Last game, of course, the Knights were without Riley Smith for the first time all season. He hadn't missed any games since the end of last year when he missed significant time. He had played the first couple of periods. The previous game against Calgary took one shift in the third, then did not play through it. And, it was hard to tell, Bruce Cassidy talking about it, didn't want to say too much, of course, because they don't know.
Yeah.
But then, Riley, he did say that Riley tried to play through it and could not. That's that third period shift. So Logan Thompson, of course, then left the game with about 6 minutes and change to go in Calgary. Jonathan Quick comes on, holds the fort. So those two players left mid-game in Calgary. And ultimately, we find out that they had traveled back to Las Vegas for testing, as Bruce told us on the pregame show yesterday. So the information that you're reporting that Bruce has just relayed to the media, they did not participate in practice today and not available at this time.
Yeah. Just we'll go back to the column. We'll close that up before we get on to other good stuff. So Cassidy has asked them to play a certain way, and they have bought into that. And what that has done is, by winning games since the All-Star break, playing that way, they've grown belief in themselves. And this team does expect to win. This team believes it is a legitimate Stanley Cup contender. I agree with them. And they act like that now, and their play has become predictable. You watch them play, they start well, they've gotten way better in terms of their puck management, and they get out to early leads, and they've figured out how to play with them and win with them. So what that all adds up to is we know what the Golden Knights are now, and we know that they are one of the best teams in the Western Conference. What that means in the playoffs is an unknown, but you got to feel good having that formula in your back pocket and knowing, listen, if we follow the formula, if we stick that card into the ATM and put the right numbers in, we're going to get money out.
That sounds great. And I think to underscore your point, Gary, they know what kind of a team they are, and that is not necessarily the same thing as what the lineup will be.
Yes.
In other words, great example, and I think Darren Millard was instrumental in digging this up, that for the first time ever, a team had won 4 consecutive games with 4 different goaltenders. Yeah. That had never happened before in NHL history. We're not talking Golden Knights history. We're talking NHL history. Over 100 years of this, no team had ever won 4 consecutive games with 4 different goaltenders. And by the way, they have 5 different goaltenders with at least a win just in the last month or so. And that, of course, most recently was Laurent Brossoit in Edmonton the other day. He's now 2-0-2. And Jonathan Quick, though he did not earn the win in that game in Calgary, he did come on in relief of Logan Thompson, who was injured in that game. Logan had just come back from missing time with an injury himself. So we'll talk about some of the personnel as it exists, but that is the big picture, Gary, of this team has figured out a way to win, even with different pieces in different spots.
Well, so those goalies, here's why the team has won 4 straight with 4 different goalies. The team is 6th in the NHL in 5v5 high danger chances against. The team is 3rd in the NHL in all situations high danger chances against. So Vegas has become one of the very best teams in the NHL at limiting high danger opportunities for the opposition. So when you play Vegas, you're going to get 3, 4, 5 high danger chances over the night. And the goalie's job is stop all of the non-high danger chances, right? So everything from the outside that you're supposed to stop those. And then if you stop most of the high danger chances, let 2 in, for example, go 50-50 if there's 4 high danger chances against in the game. Well, then the team wins. Because when the team allows 2 or less, I think they got 1 loss all year. Like, they're fantastic when they allow 2 goals or less. And that's Bruce Cassidy's, that's his mantra. Let's not rely on the goalie. Let's rely on the other 5 guys on the ice and make the goalie the last line of defense. And the team has done a really good job following that. They're getting offense from a lot of different people. The ice time, Dan, and I love this stat because this reminds me of year one. Gerard Gallant in year one, the difference between William Karlsson, who was the number one forward in ice time, and Cody Eakin, who was the 7th forward in ice time, was under 3 minutes. It was about 2.5 minutes. And all 6 defensemen, the regulars that they used, they all averaged over 18 minutes a night. So no one was playing 30 minutes. Well, right now, since the All-Star break, this has been it's been really balanced, and the difference in time on ice from the first forward to the 12th forward, that's all 12 forwards. The difference from 1 to 12 is 5 minutes. So that tells you, like, if Karlsson is playing or Eichel is playing 21, Bluger and Kolasar and Howden are playing 16. That's fantastic balance in today's NHL. And on the blue line, the difference from the number 1D to the number 6D is 5 minutes. And that balance, the first one is amongst the forwards, that's the number one. That's the smallest gap amongst all teams in the NHL that are currently in the playoffs. And the defense one is second in the NHL amongst all teams in the playoffs. So you got a team here. You don't have 2 players up front and 1 stud on the blue line and then a bunch of people filling in. You got a team that plays the same way and together, and that's why the results are so good.
And I'll add one more addendum to that evaluation, Gary. That's so interesting that part of that balance is can exist because of how few penalties the Knights take.
Yes.
Fewest times shorthanded. Now, they don't get a lot of power plays, so there is a lot of 5-on-5, meaning that there's not a lot of special teams. Who play special teams? A certain group of players. But when you don't have a lot of that, most of games for the Knights are 5-on-5, that the coaches can really distribute those minutes in the way that they think is most effective.
So, and the other side of the coin is that Vegas is last in power play opportunities as well, right?
Right. Yeah, and that's it. It's
Yeah.
both. They are shorthanded, fewest, and also they don't get a lot of power plays.
So, and when you get to the playoffs, the series supervisor, it'll be Don Van Massenhoven, probably for the Golden Knights in the first round. What he'll tell the referees, they'll have a meeting before every game, and he'll tell the referees 2 things. Make sure it's a penalty against the Golden Knights because they don't take penalties. And then he'll say, and when look for fouls because the Golden Knights don't go down. When you put your stick on William Karlsson, he doesn't dive. He works through it. That's the type of the referees should love this team. They don't flop, they don't dive, and they don't hook. They check with their feet.
And the opposite was on display against the Oilers the other day, who, by the way, yes, they have double the number of power play goals than the Knights have, but they also have a lot more power plays. They're shorthanded a ton, and you could see just the Yamamoto penalty, for example, and that's not something that you see a Golden Knight do. Anyhow, we've got to get to a break. First, let us tell you about the Dollar Loan Center, home of the Henderson Silver Knights, the Vegas Nighthawks, and the NBA G League Ignite. The Dollar Loan Center in Henderson is the place to be. Don't miss any of the action. Grab your tickets now. And to get more information about upcoming events, seating charts, arena policies, and much more, visit thedollarloancenter.com. Thedollarloancenter.com. You're listening to Nighttime at Noon on Fox Sports Las Vegas.
ground. I give a what the hater do. If I do not try, then I will have failed, and I can't afford not to make a move. I was told I was not good enough. I was told I was not capable. I had to sit and just ask myself, what you gonna let this make you wrong? Everything that I've been working for is right in front of me. I will not ever let go. Use the negativity as energy for me as I travel alone on this road. They didn't see the vision, they didn't understand. I went the distance, no helping hand. Now my gift got me sitting on top, and I'm about to show up now thinking I hope you did. When you a winner, you learn from your losses. We came from the bottom and now we the bosses. The future is yours, so what will you choose? If you give it your all, you got nothing to lose. When you a winner, you learn from your losses. We came from the bottom and now we the bosses. The future is mine, so what did I choose? Look, I grind every day, I got something to prove. Move. This'll make you move. This'll make you move. This'll make you move. This'll make you move.
12:21 here in the Valley. It is Monday, March 27th. Welcome back to Nighttime at Noon. Dan Duva, Gary Lawless here. We'd like to tell you about the spectacular Hotel Californian in Santa Barbara, California. It's a crown jewel in the Foley Entertainment Group. Located right by the ocean, experience oceanside views in one of 121 luxury guest rooms and suites. Taste the region's finest wine. Oh yeah, it got me hooked right there. Over at the Society State and Mason Tasting Room, and treat yourself to an unparalleled massage at Majorelle. That's where Gary likes to go.
No, I've been to Hotel California and stayed there.
And you haven't been to Majorelle, the massage spot?
No.
No, okay. Next time, though.
Finish the read, and then I'll tell you what I like.
Okay, it's all in the heart of the American Riviera. Designed for domestic and international guests alike, Hotel Californian is the perfect destination for any traveler seeking a one-of-a-kind luxury experience. Visit HotelCalifornian.com, HotelCalifornian.com to book your next stay. Where do you like to go?
The tasting room.
The tasting room.
I went there,
Not
and
surprised.
first of all, my room was, I'm going to say it was palatial.
Palatial?
It was beautiful.
It is a great
Yeah,
great
it's a
spot.
really great spot. And then the folks in the tasting room, I tried everything twice.
Did you bring any samples back for the rest of the crew?
No.
All right. Next time. All right. On we go with an update on our programming here. Nicolas Hague is expected to join us here in Studio 31 later in the show. The Golden Knights have wrapped up practice, so by the time we get Nick all set, we should see Nick in maybe 10, 15 minutes. So stand by for Nicolas Hague, who, of course, returned to the lineup after missing a month, has goals in both games, and scores the overtime winner against the Oilers last time out.
He was fantastic in both games, and a different kind of fantastic. We've seen Nick be really good. He was dominant, and I when he comes up here, I want to talk to him about it. Like I think he's gone through another level, and we've seen it with Chandler Stevenson. I was driving in today and was listening to something on the NHL Sirius network, and they were talking about Valerie Nichushkin and how he went from like 0 goals and how many games in Dallas, and then was going to go back to Russia, ends up going to Colorado and has exploded into one of the top power forwards in the NHL. Nick Hague might be going into a completely different stratosphere here right now, and I don't know if it's something that clicked mentally in terms of confidence from watching the game above during the 6 weeks he missed, or something that him and Misha Donskov uncovered in their rehab skates. I'm really fascinated to talk to Nick about all of this.
Yeah, we talked to Nick on the pregame show right when he came back. That was against Calgary, and recognized he had never missed that kind of time. It was 30 days. Maybe he had missed a few games, maybe a week or so, but never in his career, even going back to his time with the Carolina Hurricanes organization, had never missed that kind of time. He likes to watch hockey. He says he'll watch games like 6 days a week, considering when the Knights are playing as well. He likes to watch the games, so watching the Golden Knights, that he had not had the opportunity. And just the work with Misha, coming up upon this point in his career, Nick turned 26 in February. And we remember, Gary, that year, the 56-game season where, he didn't have a great start, then he finished great, scores the overtime goal, Game 4 against Montreal. That was his first playoff overtime goal. This was his first regular season overtime goal the other day.
Let me ask you this. We knew that he was really good in the shootout.
Yeah.
So this guy's got hands. Has there been has he crossed over into some area where he's figured out, I don't have to just use those silky mitts or whatever you want to call them in shootout situation. I can do it in 5-on-5 or 5-on-4 or whatever, in regular hockey, not just in the shootout. Because the goal in overtime was like this, the stick handling was par excellence. And the goal in Calgary takes Stevenson pops it off the wall to Kessel. Beautiful feed from Phil. But then it's the Nick Waugh show to finish and beat Markstrom. And I'm really curious where this can go.
We'll ask him about that. Nick,
will.
again, is expected to join us here in a little bit. So, again, updating the news of the day, Riley Smith and Logan Thompson injured in Calgary. They did not travel with the team to Edmonton. They came back here. They did not practice today. Bruce Cassidy, again, telling the media today that they're not expecting them on the ice this week to be available, and that we won't really know a timetable until they get on the ice. But they're not expected to be on the ice or to be available this week. That's Riley Smith and Logan Thompson, who were injured the game in Calgary. But at that same time, we mentioned Nick Waugh coming back into the lineup, Laurent Brossoit coming back into the lineup. But there's another player, Gary, who has been impactful, who was up from the American League, played 3 games back in December. But since he's come back up now, Pavel Dorofiev and what he has accomplished, and now it is 10 games, 7 since the most recent call-up, and he scores a power play goal set up by Phil Kessel last game. I mean, he has been a huge delight to watch. How have you seen Pavel Dorofiev impact this lineup?
5 goals in 7 games right off the bat, and he's been really good on the power play, mixing with Phil Kessel. And I do want to talk a bit about Phil after we talk about Pavel. I just think that he's a guy that had skill and needed the opportunity to adjust to the North American game and learn to play this style in the American League. And then Bruce Cassidy made the decision not to put him down at the bottom of the lineup with some players that might not help him as much offensively as others would. And he put him up with Riley Smith and William Karlsson. And Dorofiev he's flourished. He's thrived with those players. And then they moved, Smith obviously got injured, so they moved Mike Amadio up. So the lineup the other night was Dorofiev, Karlsson, and Amadio, and that line was really good as well. Excuse me.
Yeah, and Amadio had scored a goal the previous game, which set a new career high with 12. And Bruce Cassidy has talked about when Mike has been down in the lineup or up in the lineup, in neither case does he consider it a promotion or a demotion. He trusts Mike Amadio in either of those spots.
Karlsson is playing some of the best hockey we've ever seen him play.
Yeah.
People will go, well, he scored 43 in year 1. Well, I think that was an anomaly. There was a shooting percentage that kind of skyrocketed. And, could Williams score 43 again in his career? Absolutely. Do I expect it to happen? What we're seeing right now, I think, is what you should expect from Karlsson. He's going to have 40 assists when it's all said and done.
The most assists that he's had in his career. Go back to year 1, he had the 43 goals, but he had 35 assists, and he has that now.
Well, how many goals does he have now? 13?
13, yeah.
13. So 20 is probably, like, to me, what you'd like William Karlsson to score 20 and have 40 assists, 60 points, and be one of the best two-way centermen in the National Hockey League. That's what you'd want from him all day long.
Yeah, and by the way, he is under contract through 2027.
Yeah, under a real good deal. So, and I don't see him. He's a great skater. It's not effort-based. He's got a beautiful stride, and he's very fit. I don't see William. I see him going at this pace for quite some time. So, I've really liked that combination. But Dorofiev, what do I see or what do I like about him? Thanks very much, Floyd. He goes to the net. He's around the net, and you hear pro scouts say this all the time about guys they love. They say he shoots to score.
It seems logical,
It
but
does.
it is not as simple as it sounds.
No.
He shoots to score, and scored he has to the tune of 5 goals. And each of the power play points that he has, 2 goals, 1 assist, each has been involved with Phil Kessel. Phil set up 2 of them. Pavel set up 1 for Phil. And I asked both Phil about Pavel and I asked Pavel about Phil before the game in Edmonton the other day. And Pavel, I asked, what's it like playing with Pavel? Pavel, what's it like playing with Phil? And he said, it's amazing. He's the Iron Man. I love that. And, those guys that have a certain knack for scoring, the Golden Knights have had some great all-around players. Then there are those who have a real offensive nose. And Pavel seems to have that, especially around the interior, which you might not have expected. We know what he's done before and had a great season, led the Silver Knights in goals and in points. And this year, now that he has gotten some traction, I mean, this is, I don't want to say it's a discovery because the Knights organization has known about Pavel Dorofiev, or otherwise he wouldn't be here. But I think for those of us who have seen other guys called up from the American League, there hasn't been a forward who's been quite as productive in this sample size as Pavel Dorofiev has been, to the degree that when other players have come back, like Nick Waugh, like Keegan Colasar, they did not take Pavel out of the lineup, whereas some other call-up guys might have been the first one to come out. No, Pavel stays in there, stays in that spot on that line, and he stays on the power play. It would be hard to take him off that power play right now.
Or his line with Karlsson,
Yeah,
right?
right, yeah.
They're producing, and he has been effective defensively. There was one play the other night where I kind of thought, you'd like to do that a little differently, but for the most part, he's really fit in. We got a break. Phil Kessel has shown of late he has another gear, and he keeps telling us quietly in the dressing room, I got a couple more gears. He can't wait for the playoffs to arrive.
Yeah, he was our pregame show guest before the game, as I mentioned a moment ago. And I asked him, how would you assess your season? He said mediocre.
Yeah.
And then what does he do in the game? Extends his scoring streak to a career-best 4. And you can see, and I asked him about Connor McDavid, and he started thinking about having played with Sidney Crosby. Asked him about playing meaningful games. He might have had more production in Arizona, but those teams were not going to the playoffs. Very different situation. Now all of a sudden he's part of a team that is on the precipice of clinching a spot, and he's playing some of his best hockey as a Golden Knight right now.
Yeah, and this isn't a state secret. If Phil gets scratched in the playoffs, it doesn't interrupt his Ironman streak. The consecutive game streak is for regular season games,
Which stands at 1,055,
yeah.
by the way.
So if there was to be a situation where he wasn't playing well and there was someone else who could help the team more, Bruce Cassidy would have to make that move.
Yeah.
It's a more difficult. Let's just call it what it is. You're not doing that to Phil in the regular season this year. Next year's another conversation altogether, but you're not doing that to him this year. But in the playoffs, when the team's trying to win a Stanley Cup, the best 12 forwards play.
And, of course, if he's playing in the playoffs like he's playing right now, he's not coming out.
Exactly. That's my point.
Yeah.
And maybe, but, if Mark Stone gets healthy, if Will Carrier gets healthy, if Riley Smith gets healthy, there are going to be big – those 3 guys are all going in. Yeah. So there's decisions to be made down the stretch.
And you've got to believe that Phil understands that.
Exactly.
So to show what he can do
That's
in
my
these
point.
final dozen games or so, and like I said, he's got a 4-game scoring streak, a season high for Phil. We do want to take a break. A reminder that we do have Nicolas Hague coming up in studio, so stand by for that. You're listening to Nighttime at Noon on Fox Sports Las Vegas.
I give a what a hater do. If I do not try, then I will have failed, and I can't afford not to make a move. I was told I was not good enough. I was told I was not capable. I had to sit and just ask myself, what you gonna let that make of you roll? Everything that I've been working for is right in front of me. I would not ever let go. Using negativity as energy for me as I travel alone on this road. They didn't see the vision, they didn't understand. I went the distance, no helping hand. And my gift got me sitting on top, and I'm about to show up now. They cannot hold me there. When you a winner, you learn from your losses. We came from the bottom and now we the bosses. The future is yours, so what will you choose? If you give it your all, you got nothing to lose. When you a winner, you learn from your losses. We came from the bottom and now we the bosses. The future is mine, so what did I choose? Look, I grind every day, I got something to prove.
.1238 in the Valley on this Monday, the 27th of March, 2023. Welcome back to Nighttime at Noon. The Vegas Nighthawks' second season is underway. Become a part of the Nighthawks family and don't miss out on the action. Go to nighthawksfootball.com to secure your seats for this season. Full season memberships start at just $15 per ticket per game over at the Dollar Loan Center in Henderson. Visit nighthawksfootball.com for more information. Again, nighthawksfootball.com. Welcome back to Studio 31 here at City National Arena in Summerlin. Dan Duva, Gary Lawless here talking Golden Knights hockey. Number one in the Pacific and the Western Conference. Single-digit games remaining. 9 left. Edmonton Oilers here tomorrow. Vegas coming off the victory in Edmonton. Knights had lost the first 2 against the Oilers. One back in the fall. They lost in Edmonton in overtime 4-3. Home loss in regulation in January 4-3. Now they beat Edmonton on the road. Oilers, it's not a home and home for them. They are playing in Arizona tonight. So the Knights here at home, obviously traveled, rested yesterday, practiced today, game against the Oilers tomorrow. Edmonton, Gary, they had travel down to Arizona. They're playing the Oilers tonight, and then we'll have Vegas on the road, the back end of back-to-backs for them.
Yeah, Jay Woodcroft was talking about their schedule and being ready for these situations. it's back-to-backs are harder on the Oilers, I would think, in the sense that they really rely on McDavid and Draisaitl a lot more than most teams rely on one or two forwards. So we'll see. You know what I mean? If Arizona, they can't drop those points. They're going to have to play. And Arizona's been playing teams tough, especially at home. So we'll see. Jay Woodcroft would love to be up 5-0 midway through the game and be able to tell Draisaitl and McDavid,
get ready for tomorrow.
Enjoy the ride, boys. Enjoy the view.
So that game is 7 o'clock Pacific tonight.
Yeah.
Arizona hosting Edmonton. The other one to keep an eye on today, Seattle at Minnesota. That game is at 5 o'clock Pacific time. So if you're settling in for your evening's take of hockey, those are the two games to watch, I think, when it relates to night's opponents. The Kraken, who are currently in a wild card spot, trying to stay above the fray. And, of course, they could still catch the Oilers for third in the division. But how about Minnesota taking over number one in the Central Division ahead of Dallas and ahead of Colorado?
Yeah, they've been cooking with gas for a while here and doing it all without Kaprizov. He's been injured. Kirill Kaprizov, he's been hurt. So they've got a two-headed monster going in net. They're using both Gustafsson and Fleury. What is their streak right now? They must have lost one, but they had one like 8 or 9 in a row. They were really going good. So we'll see. It's interesting. You look at all those numbers. Look at where Vegas is with wins: 46, 3 more than LA, 5 more than Edmonton, 4 more than Minnesota, 3 more than Colorado. You got to go to the eastern side to find teams that have more wins than Vegas. And Colorado 47, New Jersey 46, same as Vegas. The Rangers 43, and then the Bruins at 57. They're
franchise record
all by themselves. So really, when I look at the can you click on that so it shows the league standings? Because that's an interesting story as well.
Yeah.
You hear everybody over there always talk, thank you very much, great work. You talk about it, everyone's always talking about, the East, the East, the East. Well, yeah, there's a bunch of really good teams in the East. But, right sandwiched right up in there is Vegas. And Vegas can easily catch New Jersey and finish and be the third best team in the NHL. I think Carolina at 5 points ahead. That's probably going to be tough to reach because Carolina's not going to slack off. They're going to keep winning. So the Golden Knights they get no respect league wide. No one talks about them right now. When you watch NHL Network
East Coast bias
or listen to Sirius XM, there's very little chatter about the Vegas Golden Knights.
There are clinching scenarios as it relates to today's action. Let me tell you about those quickly. Maple Leafs, who are not playing today, do clinch a spot if the Florida Panthers lose to Ottawa in any fashion. The New York Rangers also do not play today. However, they can clinch a berth if the Buffalo Sabres lose to the Canadiens in any fashion, and the Florida Panthers lose to the Ottawa Senators in regulation. So the Leafs and the Rangers can clinch today, and depending on what happens today, the Knights could be on the precipice of clinching a spot as well, number one in the Western Conference, of course. And Gary, unlike last year, when from the All-Star break down the stretch, the Knights faltered, this year it's been the exact opposite. Their greatest run of hockey has been since the All-Star break. How do you see that?
I think Bruce Cassidy's a big part of that. And then I think Kelly McCrimmon did what he needed to do at the trade deadline to, listen, imagine if McCrimmon hadn't acquired Quick. Like Giri Patera was a real good story, but the hiccups have not extended into valleys. They have been it's been okay. But they had the one losing streak right around just before the All-Star break.
Yeah, they couldn't score.
They couldn't score. They were struggling there, and and I actually think that was a really good thing for the team because I think the players at that point in time, the puck management was not very good leading up to that. And I think the players realized, okay, we got to change a little bit. We've got to adjust our game. They bought in, and they've been Like you just don't see the turnovers in the neutral zone right now that you did earlier, and that's really helped the team. So McCrimmon, he added Quick, which has been a very important insurance policy, and then Barbashev and Bluger have really bolstered this team. Bluger has allowed Cassie to move a lot of people around him on that fourth line. They've kept that identity, and Barbashev, he's been a real nice compliment to Jack Eichel.
And there have been a number of things on the periphery, not the huge splash that the organization has executed to put the Knights in this position. It's not always the big splash. It's the devil in the details.
Yes, real said.
Nicolas Hague will be joining us shortly. Stand by for Nick. We'll have him here in Studio 31. He missed a month, back for 2 games, goals in both of them, including the overtime winner in Edmonton a couple of days ago. Before we get to Nick, tell you about AFC Bournemouth. Attention Golden Knights fans, we need your help in welcoming AFC Bournemouth to the Foley Entertainment Group, also known as the Cherries. AFC Bournemouth plays in the prestigious English Premier League, where they consistently take on some of the best football teams in the world. Football, a.k.a. soccer, here on this side of the pond, I suppose. Show your support for the Cherries by catching their matches via stream on Peacock TV. Make sure to also visit the Arsenal at City National Arena to pick up some Bournemouth merch, including jerseys, scarves, flags, mini soccer balls, and lapel pins. To learn more and be part of the club's exciting new era, make sure to visit afcb.co.uk. afcb.co.uk. Up the Cherries. This is Nighttime at Noon on Fox Sports Las Vegas.
What I hate to do. If I do not try, then I will have failed, and I can't afford not to make a move. I was told I was not good enough. I was told I was not capable. I had to sit and just ask myself, what you gonna let make you grow? Everything that I've been working for is right in front of me. I will not ever let go. Using negativity as energy for me as I travel alone on this road. They didn't see the vision, they didn't understand. I went to this, is no helping hand. And my gift got me sitting on top, and I'm about to show up now. They cannot hold me down. When you a winner, you learn from your losses. We came from the bottom and now we the bosses. The future is yours, so what will you choose? If you give it your all, you got nothing to lose. When you a winner, you learn from your losses. We came from the bottom and now we the bosses. The future is mine, so what did I choose? Look, I grind every day, I got something to prove.
Eichel takes it off the right boards. Pressured on the near side. Sends it in front. Waugh all by himself. Stop. Rebound. He scores. Nicolas Hague in overtime. Knights 4. Oilers 3. Dazzling puck handling in front for Nicolas Hague. Welcome back to Nighttime at Noon. That voice sounded familiar. And the guy who scored the goal, well, he is right here in studio with us. Nicolas Hague joining us on Nighttime at Noon. Dan Duva, Gary Lawless, plus Nick in our final segment. Well, you just heard it, Nick. What did you see, though? What happened on that final play of the game in Edmonton?
I knew they were kind of exhausted. They had an extended shift there, so we were fresh. Jack made a really nice play there down the board. Kane went on him too, so they tried to two-man Jack, and he made a really nice play to me in front of the net, on the net there, and it was nice to be everyone there.
Did you think that you would have so much space and as much time as you ended up having?
When I got the puck, I knew I had kind of a lot of time there because I knew they went 2 guys on Jack, but I didn't think I could get my rebound. But that was nice to get that for sure.
Yeah, I was just watching when you look at the reverse angle, the camera behind the goal, and you just kind of sneak behind the goal, and everybody kind of goes away towards Jack, and then boom, you come right out in front. I mean, that must be so exciting to sense, like, I'm gonna get open here. I'm gonna have a chance before the puck even gets to you.
Yeah, exactly. I was pretty excited when I saw, like I said, 2 guys going on him. I knew I was alone by myself, so I kind of screamed for it. I hope he see me, and Jack obviously got a really good vision, good player, so he saw me, and that was a really nice play from him.
The goal in Calgary, it was a rebound as well, right? You shot it, Markstrom made a save, it came right back to you?
Yeah, exactly. Same thing.
Yeah. When it goes your way, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I thought you were. We've been fans of yours since you got here. Thought you have always been a really good player. But what we saw the last 2 games has been a cut above that. Is that just because you're fresh, or something happened while you were injured? Did you see something? Did you think something? Is there a change in confidence? What's happening right now?
I think it's a little bit of both. Being out, I could focus on my training, and obviously the medical staff did a really good job with me, keeping me in shape, ready, skating with me. I think it felt great. But also watching the games, you, especially from on top, like, you don't really have. I think you see some different stuff there. Sometimes guys have more time than anything they do. You see the game differently, so it definitely helps me also for sure.
It's easy. I say this. I try to say this once a broadcast. I'll say something like, the player had more time than he knew. He probably, or he should have shot there. And then I'll always say, hey, easy for me to say up here. It looks easy upstairs, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. To be honest, sometimes you're like, oh, this guy's open, but when you're playing, you don't see. You see the guys coming at you, and it's faster than it looks from on top. So it's different for sure.
The best way for me to describe it is the players look like little ants in a big ocean, and then while down there, when you're down close, it looks like a bunch of compact cars in one driveway. Like, there's not a lot of room out there when you're actually in it. But so a positive thing to take from your injury was you were able to watch and maybe say to yourself, maybe I can do a little more.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes you see a guy when you're down there, like I said, you think you don't have as much space as you do. When you're up there, you see, oh, okay, maybe if he kept the puck there, a different play could have opened for him. And no, it was a great experience. I've always been a fan of the game. I always watch games at home, but watching from on top for a couple of games there, I think it definitely helps.
Phil Kessel, pretty good passer.
Yeah, he is a good passer. He's been really good for a long time now, but last 2 games have been fun playing with him for sure. He's been grinding. He's been in the mix, net front there, so really good on the forecheck as well. He's playing well.
So
sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, Gary, who's rubbing off on who now in a couple of games? Are you rubbing off on Phil, or is Phil rubbing off on you?
That's a good one. I think a little bit of both. It's nice to see Phil. I think, honestly, I always like to be in front and net front, and I think Phil is trying to steal my spot in there. So it's nice to see.
You haven't clinched yet, but you're very close. Describe the difference between the feeling with the team right now this year versus this time last year when you were trying to get back in?
Yeah, it's a different feeling. I think right now we're feeling really good about ourselves, especially since the All-Star. I think we've been playing amazing, and we know the playoffs are coming, so we're trying to build our game, trying to be better as the game goes. So I think if you look back at last year, we had a lot of pressure. At this time, we needed to win, and obviously we came up short a little bit, but no, I think we're in a good situation right now.
We only have about a minute or so left here, Nick. This is your 4th season with the Golden Knights. Came over before the 1920 season. I mean, that just time flies, right? You're 26 years old now. Happy belated birthday by about 6 or 7 weeks here. Where are you now? Like we've seen steps. You were talking about that 56-game season. You hadn't started great, but then you had a great run, memorable goal in Montreal. It seems that, if it's maybe, the song is 1 step up, 2 steps back. For you, it seems like there's 3-4 steps up, maybe then you'll 3 or 4 steps up. Where are you right now? 4th year with the Knights, 26 years old. You're not a kid anymore. Sorry.
No, it's all. I guess I'm like you said, I'm trying to take steps the right direction. I think obviously early on in my career, I tried to play good defensively, be trusted by the coaches. I think now I'm past that. I'm trying to bring more offensive to my game. I've always had offensive. If you look at junior or AHL, so I'm trying to be more confident and bring some offensive to the team.
And whatever you did the last 2 games, just keep doing that, man.
Thanks.
That was
Thanks,
fantastic. You were real good, dominant.
Sounds like a plan, Nick. Thanks very much for coming by.
Thanks, Dan.
That's Nick Watt joining us here on Nighttime at Noon. That'll just about wrap things up. Big thanks to Floyd, to Ryan, to Lindsay, Garrett, and our guest Nick Watt. Gary Lawless, Dan Duva here saying so long from Studio 31. Don't forget the Golden Knights Insider Show, 4 o'clock with Ryan and Darren. And then tomorrow, 7 o'clock, the Knights taking on the Oilers. Join Gary and me on the radio for 7 o'clock, play-by-play. Good afternoon, everybody.
To the sky, feet to the ground. I give it what a hater do. If I do not try, then I will have failed, and I can't afford not to make a move. I was told